YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with more NFL record predictions for the 2023 season, going through every single division here on the channel. The AFC North today, and our Twitter subscribers will be getting not only the record prediction, but the best and worst case scenarios as well. Join us on our channel for full NFL coverage. Let's get started. Cincinnati Bengals we're starting with. I have them going 13-4. I have high hopes for the Cincinnati Bengals this year. This could be they've come up short the last couple of years. This could be the year here. So very confident with them. In that range of 13 wins, they won't really have a big range, or they can win this many games or this little games. They're going to be right around that range here. I mean, we saw this year they started a little slow. It could be the same thing. I mean, they play Cleveland in Cleveland week 1. They could lose that game. It's not going to matter a whole lot to me. So don't be alarmed maybe if they start 0-1 or maybe even 0-2, not necessarily saying that I have them going 0-2 to start, but I'm not going to be alarmed. You shouldn't either if that's the case there, but hoping the offensive line is finally better. We know it's not going to be great, but I hope it's finally better. I like the addition of Orlando Brown Jr. So I'm a fan of Brown Jr., and that's definitely going to help them run the ball better, not just pass protection, but they're going to be able to run the ball more effectively here. I know Joe Burrow is going to be lights out, an MVP candidate. I look at the tight end position actually is what I'm wondering about right now, because they were sneaky good the last couple of years at the position. Irv Smith has a lot of upside, but I wouldn't put too much stock in him. I know the Bengals make tight ends better, but that's a spot where maybe they could address still, perhaps. I really like their draft. Draft definitely helped. Myles Murphy, I think, is going to be a stud for them. Maybe not. It doesn't have to be instantly, but I love the way the defense is coached. They had some injuries here and there last year, too, so even healthier, they could be better. I like this team a lot. The legit Super Bowl contenders. I have them going 13-4. So it should, as expected, it should be another really good year for the Cincinnati Bengals. Next, we'll talk about the Cleveland Browns, who I may have doing better than maybe everyone else is predicting. I think people are too low on the Browns right now. Maybe some of you are predicting a similar record. I was back and forth between two records here when I'm going game by game, looking through the schedule, and that's 11 wins and 12 wins. So I was actually on, if this wasn't what I was going with, 12 wins is what I was going with. So I like the Browns roster. I love the Browns roster, and I think too many people are insisting, and they could be right. They could be right, but they're insisting that, all right, Watson wasn't good at the end of last year. The defense was underwhelming, so it's going to continue to be that way. And they could be right. That's not my prediction for those people to be right, but I do think it's kind of lazy thinking. I think there's why are some people so stubborn that they think there's no opportunity for Watson to maybe play close or to where he played in his prime. I mean, he still could be in his prime based on his age, but at his best, why can't he get back there? Why is there no scenario where that happens? I think there is a scenario. What if Deshaun Watson plays close to or as good as what he was playing a few years ago? Scary, because we know they have the running game. We know they have one of the very best offensive lines in football. The weapons are pretty solid. Sure, I guess the receiver unit could be better, but I like what they did, adding Elijah Moore, adding Cedric Tillman, growing with the guys they already have, Cooper, etc., growing with Deshaun Watson, him growing with them a little bit more, because he kind of got thrown into the situation, obviously, because his situation, which he put himself in that situation, obviously, not saying otherwise, but I just think more time to prepare, more time to practice, more time to gain chemistry. They should be pretty solid. So that's a really good offense. And then defensively, it's really good on paper. It was really good on paper going into last year, but they were underwhelming. I wasn't loving how it was coached. They're going to switch some things up this year. Jim Schwartz is a pretty good defensive mind. He didn't really work out as a head coach, obviously, but he's a very good defensive mind, very good defensive coach. But I think that if there was one issue, like I said, they were good on paper. They were better on paper defensively than how they played. I think the coaching can help them play better. But back to on paper, again, they look good, but where were they not good? Maybe the interior of the defensive line, but they go out and add Dalvin Tomlinson, and they had other pieces here and there. But to me, that is the big one. I mean, adding another Vikings, Zadarius Smith off the edge, only helps as well. Helps Myles Garrett. And Zadarius Smith's the type of guy that he gets production himself, but he because he can align in different spots. He's a problem pre-snap, so what he ends up doing is creating for his teammates, and you got Myles Garrett, who already creates big time for himself. You had Dalvin Tomlinson in the middle. So this team got better, in my opinion, with the coaching on defense and with the players. And they got better by default on offense, more time with Watson, the pieces that they add, like a couple of receivers, obviously. So I love the roster. The question is, can they play up to how they look on paper? That's the big question, and that's what people will debate. People will say, no, Watson, he's just going to be the way he was at the end of last year, which wasn't very good. Some people just think like that. What I think people are missing here is, my issue really isn't Watson. I think Watson's going to be good. Is he going to be great? I can't promise that. I think he's going to be good. I really do. My thing is Stefanski. I'm not a huge Kevin Stefanski guy. A couple things. Play calling's a little, I think he tries to get, he does get creative sometimes, but that's certainly not the issue. I think he overthinks things sometimes. I didn't really think he was the greatest play caller in Minnesota, so the first year in Cleveland kind of surprised me, but people kind of figured it out. So I haven't really loved his decision-making and situational stuff and his play calling. So everyone's focus, mainly the people that are doubting the Browns, their focus is, is Watson going to play bad or is he going to play good? My focus is Stefanski. Is he going to coach better? Is he going to be better in crucial situations? Is he gonna be a better play caller? And then the kind of my thing when they traded for Watson, does Watson and Stefanski, does the system match up? Does the that style match up? That's kind of when I question as well. So I'm actually watching for Stefanski. If Watson struggles a little bit, the Browns are underwhelming in my eyes, which they can win 10, 11, 12 games. So anything less is a little underwhelming. I'm guessing in my eyes, in my views, it's going to be Stefanski's fault. So he's on thin ice here. But I still have I think Stefanski does better this year because I have them winning 11 games, obviously. But mainly, I think this team is too talented. I think the roster is just too good. Like, if just judging off the roster, they are better than 11-6. They are. They're better than 11-6. There might be a 13-14. I think the roster's that good. I really do. Some people will disagree. I don't really think there's a whole lot of logic behind the people knocking the Browns. If you doubt Stefanski, then I guess I can't really argue with you too much. I guess there is some doubt in my mind too. But again, I think he does better, and I think they're just good enough to win 11 games. So maybe this was a bold one for me. I don't think it's that bold. But the way people are talking, or I see fans' comments on Twitter or in YouTube comments, based on the way you guys talk, I'm thinking most of you are going to think this is pretty bold. So, we'll see. I think they could even be better in this. It's a team I have my eyes on this year for sure. So we are through the Bengals and the Browns. Have the Bengals winning 13 games, the Browns maybe surprising some winning 11. We're going to talk about the Ravens next, which are very interesting. I actually get bold with in my mind, I get bold with the Ravens. I think Baltimore fans won't think this is too bold though. But the Ravens I have going 12-5. So I think the fan base can be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But I think it's bold. The Ravens, the team that just had durability issues, and can you really trust them to stay healthy? And it's not just at the quarterback position. It's in multiple positions, multiple spots, multiple players, obviously, several players. It's hard to have a team like that winning 12 games. It is. But I'm going to do it. I ran through the schedule. I like the schedule for them. I like the schedule. Says they can do better than this, really. It just can. Will they stay healthy? I do have them dropping some at the end of the year. How healthy will they be? There's going to be. I think that it's weird. Sometimes certain games just stand out for some teams, and I think they're looking at that Dolphins game late in the year for the Ravens. It's not a division game. They had an interesting game last year, obviously, but two teams that you wonder if they're going to be healthy then. Playoff seeding or just playoffs in general are going to be on the line there. So that's a big game there. Will Tua be healthy? Will the Ravens be healthy? I think that's a big game. But yeah, I like their schedule though. And that is a big reason I have them going 12-5, thinking of the Ravens, thinking of the durability issues. And, I didn't think I'd have them going 12-5. I thought I would have them at 10 or 11 wins, 10 or 11, but I ended up having at 12. That's what I had. So that's what we're going with. But definitely another team. The Browns are a big team to watch this year. Here's another one. I think the Bengals are too, because I think the Bengals are They could be my Super Bowl. I mentioned that they are my Super Bowl favorites. Will they be when my final predictions are out? I guess we'll see. But then the Browns, how will they improve? They should improve because the roster's so good. And the Ravens, will they stay healthy? How will Lamar play under the new contract? And there's offensive line. I've seen people on Twitter, maybe PFF, rank the offensive line for the Ravens pretty high. I'd say not so fast. It's actually something, if Ronnie Stanley stays healthy, that's fantastic. But you worry about health. But even, there's some question marks outside of that. I know Morgan Moses played better than expected last year. Is he going to continue to play that way? Does he take a step down? They lose Ben Powers. I know they have replacements lined up. They have some solid young players, but I do wonder about the offensive line. J.K. Dobbins, is he going to continue to hold out? Could they use another back? Will he stay healthy? Will Gus Edwards stay healthy? Will OBJ stay healthy? Will Bateman stay healthy? I like to say Flowers edition. So there's some big questions there, but and that's where I was like, could I possibly have them winning 12 games because the durability, but because the questions too, how good will the offensive line be? Some people think good. I question a little bit. Is it going to be awful? No, it's not going to be that. It's not. I'm not saying it's going to be down there. Receivers look better, how they hold up. So that's where I'm kind of like, could I possibly have them winning 12 games? But I like bringing in Todd Monken. Greg Roman, I think that it was time to kind of move on. I do think people kind of ripped him a little too much, maybe fans a little too much. I know they were upset and they wanted more, understandable. But he had a system that Lamar Jackson fit when he kind of came in the league. It was just very, I don't want to say simplified, but it did make things simpler for him. So that was his system, and that's what they were going to roll with. They weren't going to drastically change it overnight. You do wish some of the, if you want to get specific, some of like the passing plays, some of the routes didn't really make sense going with each other. But so they add Todd Monken, who should, at the college level, and he has experience in the NFL, pretty good offensive mind, and I just think there's going to be similarities to the old offense, but it's going to be different. Similar but different. I like that. Where it's not too complex for Lamar Jackson and company to learn, but it's going to be unique. It's going to be different for and that's the big thing here for opposing defenses to game plan for. So the game plan factor here, and the Ravens will start very, very hot, and they'll start the year very hot, and that's what they need to in case there's injuries, because it's a team that unfortunately come to expect injuries from. But there'll be a lot. They're already tough to game plan for. It'll be tougher to game plan for. Defensively, is the defensive front as good as it was, the years where it was elite or close to? Probably not. I still think it'll play pretty well. They got a lot of young upside players in terms of the edge rush position. What are we going to get from them? It could be kind of, inconsistent. It could be, but there is a lot of upside there. I guess that's the big question there. What are we going to get from those guys? I know Marcus Peters had a down year last year, but they don't have him anymore. Are they better without him? I don't really think so, even though he had a down year. I do like Marlon Humphrey. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton was better in the slot last year, but he also can play that safety role. They were definitely in on Adrian Amos to be able to play Marcus Williams-Amos at safety, and then Kyle Hamilton in the slot, where he was really dominant at the end of last year, but they end up missing on him. So it's kind of thin on what's left there for that strong safety position. So that would have boosted them actually a little more, because I would have liked to fit there. But, and obviously having the linebacker position set, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, I like that group there, obviously. But you look down the stretch of last year, the defense kept them in games. They played very, very well. The offense should be better. Just really got to stay healthy. So, they should be, with the schedule too, and the game plan factor, they should be able to win. I was kind of back and forth between 12 and 11, because to me, again, I don't think Ravens fans are going to think this is bold, but to me, it's a little bold. I think, other people might agree with me. It's a little bold, even though, it's not bold to have the Ravens talent win 12 games. It's just the Ravens in general, because the durability issues. It is a little tough to predict that. So I was back and forth between 12 and 11, and because the injury scares me, you go 11, but the schedule is so favorable to them. And I think Lamar, maybe he could have played at the end of last year. It's tough to say. But maybe things are a little more serious now. He got his money. So, and I think they'll be very deadly on the ground and then through the air. Will they be the best team through the air? No, but I think they'll be better than they were before for sure. So I went with 12-5 for the Ravens. Definitely an interesting team to watch out for this year, just like the Browns. I think I was very close to having them at the same record. That's something that's very close to me, and people would think I'm crazy for saying the Browns and the Ravens. And if you look at the Browns roster's better. Actually, it's better. I think the Ravens are much tougher to game plan for. I think they'll be better in situational stuff too, like I guess play calling or just coaching in crucial situations, which I guess Harbaugh's made some interesting decisions, that fans didn't really agree with. I think that there's those decisions though that they didn't execute. So since they didn't execute, it was a bad decision. I think if it worked out, he's genius. It's like some of those situations where it's a gamble. I don't really blame him fully. Maybe there's some that I question, but I'm going to trust the Ravens coaching a little more than the Browns. Is kind of what I was getting at there. And then the Steelers, I was back and forth between 9-8 and then actually 10-7. So 9 wins, 10 wins. There's some games, there's some trap games I thought for them. It's just random to point out some games, but the Texans game actually I think could be good. I think the Texans could be sneaky. The Patriots game will be a good one. Those would be key games where it's like, maybe games they should win, but they'll win games that maybe you don't expect because they'll get one on the Bengals and they'll get one on the Ravens. Actually, the Browns might be tougher for them this year. Just a thought based on matchup on paper. I think the Bengals are the best team in the division in my opinion, but they'll get one on the Bengals, and they'll get one on the Ravens, and they could get one on the Browns. But I didn't know if a team's going to 2-0 them, for some reason I think it could be the Browns, I guess depending on health. But Steelers, I was 9 wins, 10 wins, back and forth 10 between there. It is tough to say Steelers 10 wins. I mean, it's not super tough because they're used to winning, and Mike Tomlin's a legendary coach, and they did get better. I love their draft. They had an A+ draft to me. They did get better overall. I do question the cornerback position, though. Did they get better there? I don't think they did. Maybe for the future because they drafted a couple guys, including Joey Porter Jr., that I really like. But that's going to be interesting, too, because Mike Tomlin and his defense is usually better when they're more man coverage. But based on things that they've done, really looking at the corners, Patrick Peterson, Joey Porter, I think they're going to play zone. They play a lot of press zone, maybe more cover 2, cover 4, which suits those corners because at Patrick Peterson's age, he's not running man anymore. I think Porter's a press zone guy based on the film that I watched. I'm actually very confident on that. He's better. They'll run some man, don't get me wrong. You gotta mix it in there. But I do wonder on how this defense, I can see his defense at any given time could be elite. I think that's a little much right now. I think it could be great, but it also could struggle at times. I do like, in terms of the middle linebacker position, it's funny because they might not look as sexy on paper at the middle linebacker position as in the past. Miles Jack, Devin Bush. Now it's Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts. The bigger names are out. The smaller names are in. It's actually better now, though, because the fit of Mike Tomlin's defense. It's definitely a much better fit with these guys. I think they'll use Holcomb on the blitz a bit, and he's got a lot of upside. And Roberts just fits well. He's not a flashy guy. He's going to stop the run. He's going to get the job done on the inside there. So actually, I think that's better the way it is. I could be wrong, end up being wrong on that, but I think because of fit, I think they're better. I do wonder about the cornerback position early on. I'm not going to be concerned if Joey Porter Jr. struggles early on. Where's Patrick Peterson at in his career? He actually started the year very, very good in Minnesota, but they ran no man. They ran all zone because that's what they were at with those corners. So that's a tough part there. The defense overall will be good. You got TJ Watt, you got Cam Hayward, you drafted very well. You have Minka Fitzpatrick. Defense, and you have Mike Tomlin. The defense will be good. Offensively, I was impressed by Pickett last year. Is he going to be the flashiest quarterback in the world? Is he going to be a great quarterback? Probably not. But he improved throughout the year. He could be a very solid quarterback. I like that he was pretty clutch. He was a smart quarterback, pretty clutch, use his legs a little bit, throwing on the run. I like that. So could he take another step up? He could. I think the running game should be a little bit better. I'm not expecting huge improvement. We know the receivers are good. How consistent will Pickett be throwing the ball downfield? Offensive line, technically got better. I don't expect it to be a whole lot better. I think it's more for the future. Like Broderick Jones good draft pick. He'll make them better. But that was more of an upside guy, least amount of starts in the class. He had some bad moments on tape, but he has a ton of upside in the right system. I think the right team got him, the right scheme here. But if he has growing pains, which I expect, don't be alarmed. So it's not like we can sit here and say right away for 2023 the offensive line is so much better. That's really not the case. They're heading in the right direction, but again, that's really not the case. So it felt like a 9-8 team to me when going through the schedule, like 9-10. I was back and forth in some games. It's hard to predict them to go 10-7, but they're right there. So just so everyone's aware, that's kind of where I was at, 9 or 10. And the schedule's pretty good, because do they really feel like a 10-win team on paper? On paper, not really to me. They feel like an 8 or 9. Really, they feel like an 8-win team, 7, 8, 9 on paper. I think if we look to the future, like next year, it's a different story. And they kind of look like, if we're looking right now and projecting the future, they look like a lot more than that. But for right now, 2023, on paper, they look like 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. Maybe the 8 will get in the middle. But they find ways to win games. They got guys that are improving. They'll continue to prove along the season. And they have Mike Tomlin. I'm a big Mike Tomlin guy. They have a good coaching staff in general. So they find ways to win more games. So that's where I'm at with the 9 or 10 wins there. But yeah, like I said, Twitter subscribers will get my best and worst case scenario as these come out on Twitter. And there's some teams that I have a smaller range, like with my actual prediction, like the best case and worst case, not too far off. A couple of the teams in this division have a huge range, like the Browns and the Ravens. The Bengals have a tight range. Like we know they're going to be around 13 wins. Steelers isn't a crazy big range, but the Ravens are kind of a bigger range because of injury. But the Browns are a crazy big range. It really is. Stefanski, how does he coach? Does he step up? And which Watson do we get? I think Stefanski plays a part in that. I think he could actually hold Watson back, and that's kind of what I worry about. But I'm not worrying too much because I have the Browns winning 11 games. So, yeah, it's really going to be a fun division this year. Really going to be a fun division. And it's one of the better ones in football, that's for sure. So that wraps this one up. We did the AFC East, the NFC East. Now here's the AFC North. Next will be the NFC North. We're going to go division by division. We'll eventually get to, we can round them up in one video, but record predictions. We'll eventually get to my full season predictions as well, which those have been, I think, very accurate in the past, especially the Super Bowl predictions. So I can't wait to get all that. We'll start ranking players for the upcoming season, which we always do. Schedule updates, upload updates, and just NFL updates on our Twitter. Just follow us for those updates and interaction with you guys. Subscribe for bonus content. Link in the comments for that. Other videos and our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop. Check it all out. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.